Is it real or fake? A Jacob the Carpetbagger toy available in stores worldwide and also in department stores across the United States? What? What are you telling me? A doll that's dedicated to this guy that's an increasingly popular YouTube travel vlogger? He's called Jacob the Carpetbagger. Have you ever heard of this guy? Is he real? Is this toy for real? Oh boy, I got a story to tell you. It is something, I would say that it's quite amazing, phenomenal, intriguing. I don't know how to phrase it, but I'm thinking about a Jacob the Carpetbagger toy dedicated to this guy that's a increasingly popular YouTuber. I guess when you get the toy, supposedly, if it's real, you pull a string on the back of the toy and it says, "Hey, you all." And this is what Jacob the Carpetbagger tells his viewers. Now, is this toy cheap? Is it real? And just as intriguing, is it guaranteed low rating like the package says? Does it have weak batteries included? Oh boy, this is mysterious. The bottom of the package says that doll, the Jacob the Carpetbagger doll, puts you to sleep or keeps you awake. Now, just listen to this. You got to hear more about this story. Whether I want to or not, there's no way taking aback the fact that to many of this guy's increasing number of viewers across the world, and particularly in the United States, Jacob the Carpetbagger is some kind of a hero. It confuses me. It leaves me perplexed. It leaves me scratching my head. This so-called regular looking guy in real life is considered some kind of a hero to many of his fans. They're signing up for his channel left and right. I imagine that, maybe dozens of people every single day, every hour maybe, they sign up for this guy's channel, a regular looking guy. Not that looks are everything. His personality, I don't know if he has any kind of personality. Think of a superhero with kind of a blank personality or kind of a dull personality. Or maybe it's just the fact that he comes off as a regular guy, a regular everyday Joe, if that's a politically correct term. A regular guy. Maybe that's why people like him. He doesn't come off as some kind of a celebrity in his videos. Now, his channel is called Jacob the Carpetbagger. That's how you find him online, but you got to keep watching this so I can explain about him, because I'm about to do a review of the Jacob the Carpetbagger channel. You need to find out why this guy is becoming increasingly popular, and that's why I am here to give you my own personal in-depth analysis of this fellow. Now, he looks regular. He looks like he's not some kind of a superhero. But when I watch his videos sometimes, I see him crawling down into caves. There's one video where I recently saw he's crawling down into the side of a redwood tree, and he goes down to the bottom just exploring, and he's taking a video of the whole thing to show his viewers what in the heck is going on in the redwoods. Wow, and then this guy just looks so normal. He doesn't look like an athlete. I don't know how old he is. I'm just guessing he's probably, I don't know, 40. Not that age makes any difference. Maybe he's a little older, a little younger. Age shouldn't make any difference at all. But then there's another time I saw him going down some kind of a cliff or rocks near the Pacific Ocean, and he was going down toward the beach. And what does he do? He crawls down and he's going down this little crevasse, and he's barely making his steps to get down to the beach because he wants to get down to the beach to see some dogs and some other people there. I think it's someplace like Oregon. He's exploring everywhere so he can show his videos to these people around the world so they can see what he's not seeing, because, maybe a lot of people don't have enough money to travel. So this guy has transformed himself. I would think that he was probably a nerd when he was in high school. I was a nerd. A lot of us were nerds, but this guy was probably a nerd. He was probably what we call a beta male. I'm just guessing. I'm not trying to be offensive. It's just a total guess on my part. He was probably a beta male when he was a young man, and even maybe today he's a beta male. Well, this compares with so-called alpha males. An alpha male is supposedly a guy that comes into a place and he's just so magnetic and confident. He just captures the whole room. Everybody wants to pay attention to him, but not this Jacob the Carpetbagger guy. I can't see him doing that. But for some reason, he magnetizes viewers. You got to hear my analysis on this. How does he do this? How is this guy so drawing in viewers? He's like some kind of a magnet. I don't get it, but I'm going to tell you what I think about the whole situation. It's quite fascinating, at least from my perspective. Although there might be tons and tons of people that think otherwise, other than I do, at least from my perspective, Jacob the Carpetbagger is an explorer. He's like an explorer that came, from like hundreds or thousands of years ago. And to me, it's as if he just landed right here in the 21st century and he's exploring. His mind is curious and he goes from town to town to town exploring. That is what he does. He's just exploring. He's just a modern day explorer into the so-called real world that we have. And he's going to museums and state fairs and all kinds of amusement parks, just roadside places. And he's just kind of showing off and explaining things as he goes, learning as he goes. And as a result, his viewers learn as well. He's got that curiosity. It's that curiosity that lots of us had when we were young adults, but we lost, sadly, when we became, in our 20s or 30s or whatnot. Responsibilities just overwhelmed us. We allowed that to happen. Our responsibilities, family, children, trying to get a job. I've heard it said that the 20s are, one of the most challenging decades for an individual as they're going through the various stages of life. Challenging, but for this fella, he somehow managed to retain curiosity, and it's curiosity in my mind that keeps us alive, always experiencing something new, always experiencing things that open up our mind as we learn more and more and more. Now, have you gone into a rut in your life or at times felt like you're in a rut? Well, perhaps this is why a lot of people like to tune in and see this gentleman, Jacob the Carpetbagger, because they're maybe living the fantasy, that maybe they're traveling with this fella. Maybe some viewers cannot afford to travel the way he does, but they can go along with him. They can go along for the ride. When that happens in his videos, you just see this regular guy behind the wheel, la-di-da-da-da-da-da, he's going along. And, it doesn't seem, like I have already indicated, it doesn't seem necessarily like there's anything special about this Jacob the Carpetbagger. But there is something special, because he's always on an adventure. How would you like your life if you were always on an adventure? Remember that feeling when you go on vacation? Sometimes, not always, when you go on vacation, you feel like this is a new experience. You get to the location, you think, wow, I'm on vacation. This is a special time for me. Well, a lot of us either are limited in our vacations, or we just can't afford them, or we neglect to take them if we have enough money. But here's this guy, and people on the internet, online, on YouTube, follow him religiously. A lot of people I've heard claim that they never miss a single video of this regular guy. Okay, I got to admit, this is confession time for me. As far as I know, there is no Jacob the Carpetbagger doll at this time for sale. No such doll at all. That's just something that came up in my research of what could possibly happen for this guy. A Jacob the Carpetbagger doll? Can you imagine? I just think maybe it's out of this realm. There's no possibility whatsoever. But I've been known to be wrong. This guy could be so popular that people will be demanding, wanting a Jacob the Carpetbagger doll. Could it occur? Who knows? One thing I will say, however, all this intrigue that his viewers have indicated, their curiosity about him, their fixation with this guy, well, it leads me to believe that there needs to be a true and honest review of his channel, and I'm going to do that for you right now. So I'm going to give you the basic parameters so you can consider them as we begin. So it's time. Here we go for my review for the Jacob the Carpetbagger channel and this gentleman himself. Here's what we're going to say. It's going to be open and honest. This is what I believe. Is he excellent at what he does? Is his channel excellent? Excellent. Is his channel just average and mediocre? Or, and conversely, is his channel just flat out miserable? Is it horrible? I'm going to have to be honest about this whole thing. I'm going to have to tell you the truth the way I see it because so many people are curious. They are going to want to see what I have to present. And so now here we go. There's no stopping. There's no turning back at this point. You got to hang on. Pay close attention. Sound and all. I'm about to show you the opening of a Carpetbagger recent video that he did from Fort Bragg, California, and what he calls the Beach of Glass. Now listen carefully to his introduction, see what you think of it, and that's the beginning of my analysis.
Good morning, Carpetbagger here, coming to you live from the Pacific Coast Highway. We're currently on the Pacific Coast Highway road trip, heading up the Pacific Coast towards Washington. We are still in California. Now, there was a little bit of a scare last night when they announced that there had been an earthquake off the coast of Russia, that there was possible tsunamis that would hit the California coast here. At this point, everything I've seen, it appears that that the effects were minimal. And I did do a little research. Apparently, there's a lot of factors that go into tsunamis. One of them being is the tide. In fact, they used to be called tidal waves, but they don't call that anymore because they're not actually created by the tides. But the tides do play an effect on how bad the damage can be. If it's low tide, then the water that protects, because the water's further out when it surges in. If it's high tide and then a tsunami hits, it pushes even further out. So that caused a lot of damage. But from what I've read, there is no significant damage along the California coast. Looks like Hawaii fared pretty well as well. And yeah, I just came down here to the beach. I'm not seeing any abnormalities, nothing. I've been driving along the really foggy coastline this morning, so couldn't see a lot onto the water, but I stopped at the first actual beach I saw. And this is Van Dam State Park here in California. And looks like everything is business as usual.
Well, here you go. So far, so good, in my personal opinion. Of course, this is just the beginning of this review, but I think that so far, Jacob has done a fairly good job. You got to remember, I chose this particular Carpetbagger video at random, and right off the bat, we can see that this gentleman, this so-called mild-mannered, soft-spoken gentleman, does his research, which is pretty good. It fascinates the viewer, You got to remember, every viewer is the same. It might not fascinate you as much as others. You might be fascinated. He does the research. He doesn't try to hype it. He doesn't try to act overly dramatic. He's just there so you're part of his journey. So thus far, I've given him a pretty good grade. He's got a good grade for communication, a good grade for general personality, although he's not overly charismatic. He doesn't come off as some superstar. He just comes off as your likable buddy or friend. So that's a good thing. So here we're going to continue on with this review. But the remainder of the review, you're going to be hearing my voice as the analysis of what Jacob is doing, and I'm going to explain my opinion of how he does what he does. So let's go some more. Jacob does an excellent job of setting the scene. He goes to a nearby beach and vista, and he looks down to show the viewer, and he's describing here right now, I'm doing the voiceover here myself. He's setting the scene, letting people know what's happening. He's actually the director, producer, the worker, the editor of all of his own videos, just like every travel vlogger is, but he sets the scene. He lets the people know. Now he's describing what's happening on the rocks with the sea anemones, how the waves are affecting, and he's basically saying that thank goodness nobody's in danger despite the overnight tsunami warning, and he puts the viewer at ease, and he sets the scene as if you're there, and he uses the camera and the angles to show the birds and everything. I'm giving him an A+ for setting this up on the fly, so to speak, as he goes to this particular location. So from here, I expect he's going to go along the coast to another location. Yes, the following scene is where Jacob's so-called superhero skills that I've already mentioned come into play. The superhero skills are behind the scenes, unviewed by the people watching the video. The behind the scenes stuff involves the planning, dictation, narration, and directing on the fly. In fact, he's like a movie director doing this on the fly. All travel vloggers are, but from what I've seen, and I've seen a lot of them, this Jacob guy, he's among the best. So people watching it don't really necessarily know, or they don't even necessarily care. They just appreciate what he does, but he goes to a nearby harbor to determine whether it's safe, and he's got to determine this for the viewer. From there, Jacob goes to a lighthouse overlooking the Pacific. Normally this would look bland, maybe. Maybe it wouldn't spark curiosity in anybody. Maybe a lot of people would just drive by, but he takes the time to stop. He takes the time to fill an establishment shot right here. The establishment shot is what a director uses to let the viewer know where they are and what is happening, where the viewer is. And he'll actually take the viewer into this lighthouse, the basement floor. He shows what's available. He'll go from piece to piece, as he's doing right here, describing historic artifacts, bringing the history to life. It isn't just like going into a museum. He is describing everything bit by bit, piece by piece. He's bringing the viewer with him and educating them in a very casual way. And this is what we want in a professional blogger. This is perhaps one of the reasons why he has so many loyal viewers, and so many people are continuing to sign up. Now, he doesn't spend too much time here. He gives the basics. He doesn't make it boring. He just goes through the basics, the need to know kind of stuff. He's not trying to lecture people too much, but he just goes on and he brings it to life. He makes it fun. So he's bringing folks to a scientific exhibit. He's going to explain some of all the whales that can be seen from this portion of the beach, this portion of the shore, what's there. He gives the basic, even all this, and it's kind of fun what you would see. So if you live, for instance, in, we'll just say Alabama, and you can't afford to go anywhere, and go on these kind of vacations, you can actually go with him and see what he sees. And this is the hidden superhero aspect that I already mentioned about Jacob. This is why I believe he is so popular. The next section that you're about to see and that I'm about to reveal is where we get into what I have previously called and described as the so-called caveman aspect of Jacob the Carpetbagger. The caveman, as you are about to see, this is where he goes in with a sense of curiosity. He explains stuff as if he's never seen it before. In fact, in many cases, such as the following, he's never seen it before, so he approaches it with new eyes. He approaches it with a new lens in his soul and a new so-called proverbial lens in his camera, and this is a good thing. So from this particular point, you're going to see the evolution of how one of Jacob the Carpetbagger's typical videos goes and how they progress. Look at this now.
And we have landed here in Fort Bragg, California, and we are going to go for a ride on the skunk train. It's been too long since I've been on a train, so I figured we'd do some train travel on this trip. And the skunk train sounded awfully fun. This is an old logging train that we can ride, and they call it the skunk train because apparently it used to come through town and it would smell real bad. Yeah, look at this. Got the skunk conductor up there on top of the building. Got a little closer look at the skunk conductor.
Of course, it goes without question that in the scene that you just saw featuring Jacob, he did a masterful job of, number one, setting the scene. Number two, being likable. You notice that Jacob was smiling the whole time. He was being charismatic, the kind of person that people want to see. Likable and charismatic. And he was able to explain that the viewer was going to be taken on a trip of the skunk train, and he gave a brief history of the skunk train, that it was named because it used to have an odoriferous aura around it, and that brings the video to life, and it goes on and on. You got to remember that when Jacob is traveling and doing his vlogs, he goes from town to town, filmed day after day after day, but it's not just that. Into the evenings and late at night, almost every day, he has to do editing of the videos that he's produced that particular day before he goes to sleep for the night. Sometimes that editing process takes well over an hour, sometimes 2 hours, or maybe longer. It's very meticulous process, very arduous, and lots of the credit goes to, and this is what Jacob has said often, the late Adam the Woo, the late legendary vlogger. Jacob says that Adam was Jacob's mentor and taught him what to do. So I imagine a lot of what we're seeing from Jacob right here was mentored by his late friend, Adam the Woo. Needless to say, Jacob the Carpetbagger has been grieving since his late friend, the legendary YouTuber Adam the Woo, died recently. Woo, 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 woo. Hey, as we watch Jacob the Carpetbagger take his many loyal viewers on this amazing and fun ride. What a fun trip he makes it, as you can see from the image on your screen. I'm going to read some of the many positive comments his loyal viewers from around the world wrote underneath Jacob the Carpetbagger's video about him and about his video. Here's just some of the comments. Another person wrote, "I've been watching you every episode for 3 years, Jacob. You've become an essential part of me and my girlfriend's life. We appreciate you." And There's even more. As he describes the countryside along the skunk train route, another viewer said, "So glad you took the old skunk train. My family did that in 1989. We got the whole thing on video. At that time, the track was complete before the tunnel collapsed, so we went from Willis all the way to Fort Bragg. Oh my God." And then here's another person that said, "Hi, Jacob. I have to say, in my opinion, this is the best road trip you've ever done. I'm enjoying every single minute. Safe travels as always. See you tomorrow." I just enjoy reading the comments. Sometimes I'm a fan of Jacob the Carpetbagger, as you see, because of these kind of things that you see on your screen, which he does so well. And then another person commented that, "What a fantastic model train setup." Now, this is referring to a model train that Jacob the Carpetbagger showed his viewers just before he got on the actual skunk train. Way, oh, way, the positive comments continue on and on even more. One person said, "Jacob, the skunk train horn sounded real loud." The look on your face was priceless when the horn blew. Nice ride, scenery, and beautiful. Till next time, tomorrow. I'll see you there. As you can guess, this gentleman has loyal viewers, and they want to see his entire ventures, his adventures all around the United States. And I don't blame them any way whatsoever. In fact, I credit his many viewers. Here's another person, Miles Alfama. Forgive me if I've mispronounced that. He says, "I love the skunk train tour too. Very much fun to see redwood trees up close." My dad and I rode this too a while back. So those are just the typical kind of comments we see under his various videos. Of course, those other videos don't feature the skunk train. You'll see him travel, as far as I know, at this juncture, as I publish this video here on YouTube, as far as I know, I believe I'm correct, that Jacob the Carpetbagger has visited every single state in the United States. And maybe someday he'll go international. The latest I heard, he was going to take a cruise ship along with his beloved and lovely wife, Jen, I think her name is, and she often accompanies him as well on these excursions, and it's quite fun. He and his wife, a very loving couple. Of course, because of various commitments, she is unable to go with him everywhere he travels, but when they're together, it's an extra treat indeed.
So I'm a little nervous about missing our train, but let's take at least a little walk here on the trail. And yeah, it looks like the trail is actually the train track. See the train back there? And you just walk along the old train track here. There's a warning, don't miss your trains. Did you hear the horn? Is the train leaving? Please let staff know you're running late. I guess we call that number if we need to tell them to hold the train. Here, walking over the old railroad bridge. Looks like the train used to go further through this tunnel, but it does not look like there is any getting through that tunnel anytime soon. So it looks like the trail's a big loop, and it goes 0.9 miles. Gorgeous area back here. You can see the redwoods here so much that they block out the sun. Kind of a little shaded area. Skunk is pointing us into this dark little path. These are just incredibly tall trees. And then we have all these beautiful ferns along the bottom. You can see these are charred here. I don't know if they're struck by lightning, but actually the train was saying that redwood trees actually have some fire resistance to them. They don't burn as easily as some other types of trees, which is interesting. You can definitely see how they're burned, but the fire's in a very isolated spot. It didn't necessarily transfer to the other trees. Look at the size of this stump right here. And you can see growing out of the stump is a younger tree. And apparently they do grow closely together. Apparently their root systems are all interconnected. That's why you always see them in clusters. It's more of the burned trees there. You can see they're hollow inside. And these stumps are just massive. And you can see the junction down there. Doesn't look like the train's left yet, which is good. Definitely something magical about these woods. Looks like something out of like a fantasy novel. Yeah, they said there would be a horn. They'd blast their horn to let people know that the time was running out, and I've not heard any horn blasting yet, so I think we're still good. Look at this stump here. You can see the tree cave inside. Wow. Think I could get down in there? Maybe? Well, don't want to get stuck in a tree and have my train leave. And look at this. I am inside a redwood stump. I feel like the Lorax. Wow, yeah, you get some sense of just how massive these trees are from being able to step inside. Look at that, the hole in the roof. Path has gotten a little windy here as we make our way back down. And it looks like we've completed our hike.
Well, now it's time for my conclusion as far as the rating for Jacob the Carpetbagger, his channel, and the production quality. As you see here, I give it an excellent rating, 5-star all the way. I recommend that you subscribe to his channel. To do that, I'm going to provide a link right below this video that you're watching now. Go to that link and subscribe to his channel. Check out his videos, see if you like him. You might become kind of addicted to him. Watch as many or as few of his videos as you would care to do. In my mind, he's among probably the top 3 to top 5 of travel bloggers that are on YouTube. Of course, there's many dozens and or hundreds of those individuals, but I list Jacob the Carpetbagger way up near the top. The only criticism of any real import that I've heard about this gentleman is that when he encounters just one or a few of his many fans while he is traveling, he doesn't tend to want to chat much with those individuals. Now, that's an unconfirmed report, but I've heard it a number of times that he doesn't prefer to chat much with his fans if he encounters them. I believe there's a specific reason for that, is he's under a specific timeline, much more so than most travel vloggers. That is because he has to travel, meet his next location. If he spends too much time chatting as a result, he won't make his what he's planned on. So anyway, great to see you here. Look at all my videos. Also in the link below, I have a link where you can subscribe to my channel as well. Till next time.